What I'm going to speak to you about today is your story. It's your story where each one of you is the protagonist of this story. And what is unique about this story, that it is the most unprecedented transformation in the story of the free world. And what I'm talking about is the transformation what India is going through. And as I mentioned, it's a story which each one of you is scripting yourself. And the idea of this afternoon is to give you this story from the eyes and the mind of the people who are actually betting their money on the success of this story. What I'm bringing to you is your story, which I said, and this is the story of India 2025. It's not a Star Wars sketch. It is a real story. And what I'll do here is I'll just give you some facts and we'll build up this story together as you see the stepping stones as we move into the new world order. I mentioned to you about the people who are actually putting in their money on your future, who believe in you. There's a number 209 billion. That's the foreign direct investment we've got in the past 36 months. You know what's interesting about this foreign direct investment? Over 90% of this came in as what we call as the automatic approval. That makes India one of the most open economies on the planet today. Private capital and foreign capital can play a role in each and every segment of India's economy. But what is more interesting in this is that over 50% of this money is greenfield investment. That means they are willing to take a long-term call on your success. They believe in you. And today India has been rated as the number one FDI destination in the world. That is just the eyes from where it is coming. And the fact is, why is it that they're willing to take this call on you? There's a number 7.3%. You are the fastest growing large economy on the planet today. Last quarter, it was 7.3%. The fact is, this story has just begun. We are actually at the bottom end of that inflection point of a hockey stick. And why do I say that? We are 29 states. This is the aggregated weighted average of those 29 states. Let's drop it into buckets of 3, let's say 9 states each. Think of it as an aircraft with 3 engines. Today, India is firing only on 1 engine. And what I mean by that, I have only 9 odd states which are growing above 7.3%. The second engine will start firing in the next 24 months. Your third engine will start firing in the next 36 months. That's 7.3. The story has just begun. There's a number there which says 2.3 trillion. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your gross domestic product. That's the value of the products in your economy today. You know what's interesting? 2/3 of that 2.3 trillion is because of domestic demand. But let me tell you which is more interesting. And when I spoke to you that it is the most unprecedented transformation in human history, and I told you about the scale and the size and the speed at which is India is transforming. You remember we got our independence in 47. It took us 60 years to get the first trillion on that 2.3 trillion. Sometime in April 2007 is when we became a $1 trillion economy. It just took us 7 years to get the second trillion. In January 2015, India was a $2 trillion economy. That pace is what is changing and transforming India. By 2025, that 2.3 trillion will be anywhere between 4 and 5 trillion. In nominal terms, you will be the 3rd largest economy on the planet. You're the 5th largest today. But more importantly, in purchasing power parity, which is PPP, which is the value of what you can buy with that money, today you're the 3rd largest because you're anywhere between 8 and 9 trillion. And by 2025, you will be close to 28 to 30 trillion dollars in PPP terms. Just to put it in perspective, the largest economy on the planet today is at $18 trillion, which is the United States of America. That is the power of your economy. And I bring you to the slide as to what is driving the numbers of that economy. And that is the human capital. And mind you, I've not called it population, and I'm calling it human capital. We will be 1.5 billion by 2023. 1 billion of those will be under the age of 35. We will be the largest workforce on the planet. The average age of India will be 29 years. You will be the youngest human capital on the planet all the way up to 2070. Just think of the immense power of this human capital. And you know, when I talk about human capital and I said it's not population, the reason why I say that, the biggest leveler of converting that population to human capital has been the internet. Internet is an equalizer. It equalizes opportunity. It equalizes economic freedom. And that is where a person sitting in a far-off village will have the same economic power as someone coming out from a New Delhi or one of the metros of this country. And what's interesting, we are about 450 million people on the net today. We are the second largest country on the net. We are the largest, not yet on the net. And you know what's interesting there? Every second, 3 people are accessing that net. And 2 of these 3 people are accessing that net from a village or a rural point in India. India has moved beyond the metros. India has moved beyond those cities, and India has moved deep down into those villages. 10% of the world's population lives in rural India. Every minute, 30 of them are moving to a city. By 2025, you would have created a new United States of America. We'll have 300 million plus new people moving into our urban townships and urban areas. And the moment you have this movement, that 7.3% growth figure, that starts moving much faster. Because there is a fact that the moment there is higher urbanization, growth changes on a much faster level. I mentioned to you about the market power which India will be. As estimates, every Indian born in 2010 would spend $243,000 in his or her lifetime. Multiply that by 1.5 billion. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of your economy. And there is a number there which says 1 into 1 into 1. That is the stack, what we call as the India stack of the new India. You have 1 million people with a mobile phone. You have 1 billion connected to a bank account. And you have 1 billion with a unique identity number. You know what that does? You know the potency of that force? That is a force where a telecom company in India, last year and year before last, got 100 million new customers in 180 days at half the acquisition cost which it cost them to get anywhere else in the world. So the power which is India is no longer just the power of scale, is no longer just the power of speed, but it is the power of profitability. That is where corporations start coming. And just to give you one more example, there's a time span from 2012 to 2017. 52 subsidiaries of global companies which are listed in India, they were taken up and their study was done. While the global companies during that period were showing a loss of 4.4%, the Indian subsidiaries were showing a profit of more than 30%. That is the profitability and the power of your new India. And that takes me to the last point, which is what is actually driving this power. And when I said it is you, this is what is actually driving it. Let me just give you a glimpse. This is the largest celebration in the free world, is when you go in for your elections. Let me just give you a few statistics on your 2014 elections and what you did. 834 million registered voters, of which 554 million of you actually cast their franchise. Over 1,600 political parties, of which over 400 actually fought elections. 900,000 polling booths, 5,700 candidates for 543 seats. And yet the repoll was in less than 1% of those polling booths. You did the most complex exercise on the planet to a sigma 6x. And the reason you did it is because you value freedom more than anywhere else. And that is why you're committed to it. As we move into next year, which is going to be our next election year, you will have 133 million first-time voters. Of this 133 million, 97 million are from the villages of India. Of that 133 million, 63 million are women. This is the force which is creating the new world economic order. This is your story. This is the story of New India. Just take it on and make it the best you've ever done. Thank you.